Perfect timing for you to be with us here on Good Morning Kenya. Karibu sana, good morning. How are you doing? It's cold, chilly day here in the city, but some of us, we have no choice. We have to be here. Karibu sana to the program. My name is Victor Olo. It went until midnight, all in the name of seeking justice. Kawira Mwangaza and a team of lawyers were in the Senate yesterday. That's going to continue this particular morning. A lot happened yesterday. We want just to take a look at really what happened yesterday. Not getting into details because it's still a live case. I'll be joined by several lawyers in studio later on, so you just have to stick around for that. Right about now, we are always here. 2-2, goal. For those people who understand, 2-2. I and Mike Migwe, Vivian and Regina. So that is GG, 2-2. Let me start with goal number 1, Vivian.
Okay, for those who understand the meaning of goal, because I don't really get it. I don't really get it. And good morning and a very warm welcome to Good Morning Kenya. As is the usual, we are glad that you have chosen us to start off your morning. We have a lot in store. We will continue to follow the fate of Governor Mwangaza, and as we get to know whether she's going to be impeached or not. And we'll also be getting to know what is in the headlines, in the news, and later on, actually immediately after the news, I will be having a conversation on the heavy rains that are set to continue pouring until January. Where exactly are we in terms of food security and these heavy rains? And why does it seem that we always get caught unprepared? Is it that we just don't prepare, or it's sheer negligence? Now, joining me for this particular conversation will be Professor Richard Odwor, who is the chairperson, Kenya University Biotechnology Consortium. You definitely want to tune in for that so that we get to know what are we doing with all these heavy rains, all this water. Since we also experience some seasons of drought, are we trying to conserve this water, or where is this water going to? We will be finding that out in a bit. As for now, the other goal. Mike Megwe, and I can see you also in a pink tie. I'm in pink, so yes. We were in spirits. I've seen Regina has pink shoes.
Victor is in a grey suit, I'm in a grey suit.
Victor hakupata memo leo.
Lakini hakupata memo ya tai. Hakupata memo ya tai, but hapo sawa. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Kenya. And thank you for tuning in and choosing us to be the ones to start your day with. This is Good Morning Kenya, where we fill your morning with insights and fascination. Welcome to the show. My name is Mike Megwe, and today marks 10 years actually the country is celebrating 10 years of Huduma services, and we'll be looking into that later on. But in the meantime, Re, good morning.
Good morning to you, team. I would want to ask you, in the 14 months that the Kenya Kwanza administration led by Dr. William Ruto has been in office, do you think it has made significant steps to make your life as Wanjiko better? That's a rhetoric, I'm sure, but you can also participate. You can get us on X at KBC Channel 1. This is ahead of the State of the Nation address that is supposed to be delivered tomorrow by none other than President William Ruto, amid calls for the government to put up concrete measures to lower the cost of living. 14 months in office, has the administration led by William Ruto delivered on its mandate? And this is, required by law that he actually gives this address, focusing on 3 key areas, including matters state of security, as well as national values, where we talk about inclusivity, sustainable development. And we're going to be having special coverage all the way from tomorrow morning, as well as pitching camp at Parliament there, and having various analysts to just try and unpack what the president might be saying in the afternoon, and also where are the missing gaps, if any, because the cost of living continues to be, out of reach, or rather, they term it as rogue economy at the moment. And yesterday, we were treated to legal jargon at the Senate as Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza and her lawyers insisted that the impeachment process that is currently underway is full of vindictiveness. While John Jacob Kuria was keeping tabs on that, this also saw us adjust our normal programming to ensure you as the viewer get to have the first-hand information in regard to what was happening yesterday in Senate. So remember the numbers today as they take a vote. Kawira Mwangaza, to survive the plenary, requires 24 votes from 67 of the elected senators. What is her fate? Will she break the curse of the plenary process that those who came before her, for example, former Governor Mike Sonko, as well as former Governor Ferdinand Waitito, did not survive the plenary? Will she be the first to survive the plenary process, or will her budding career be stopped at the bud, so to speak? This is 2 impeachments within a span of more or less a year. That is what we have for you as we continue bringing you up to speed with those stories that have been making headlines, including that we're still having the national exams underway, and notification to parents, students, as well as guardians is that the declaration of a holiday on Monday does not and will not affect the ongoing KCSE exams. I'm Regina Manyara. Now let's start off with those stories that have been making headlines. Just in case you missed what was happening on Senate, well, you can log in onto our website, that is www.kbc.co.ke, to get further details, as well as watch KBC Channel 1 live on YouTube. To just have the highlights of what was transpiring. Remember, this process culminates today, and so we'll still be focused on the Senate. Now, let's start off with matters of customer experience, where the government is banking on technology to improve customer experience, curb graft, and increase efficiency at Kenya's airports. Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen touring JKIA says deploying technology will edge out conmen and imposters who swindle passengers, as well as increase efficiency at the country's airports. Harassment, bribery, and lost luggage are some of the experiences linked to the country's air transport sector.
Somebody at the parking is there, is standing there checking passports. They have no responsibility to check a passport until that person enters into an immigration booth. But because customers are ignorant, they are told, oh, let me see your passport. Oh, no. This passport cannot pass this airport unless you give me something small.
So we've made it very clear so that even the Kenya Revenue Authority officers who maybe have been overstepping are now clear about the mandate that we all have in our country to attract our visitors, but also to raise our taxes.
To stem these vices, plans are underway to automate screening processes by deploying technology at the entrance of the airport passenger screening yard, facilitate self-checking by passengers, as well as an advanced passenger information system to provide prior information of passengers.
Except vehicles that are going to be established to have suspicious material, and therefore they will be stopped by the police for search, just like it happens everywhere in the world.
This means, once in place, passengers accessing the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport will not be required to disembark for screening, reducing human contact in the check-in and document verification processes, a move expected to discourage conmen from swindling unsuspecting travelers. Kenya Airports Authority will also establish a passenger facilitation unit to reduce the number of persons entering the airport in the name of facilitating VIPs.
No police officer will be allowed to provide VIP services.
CS Murkomen noted that all agencies operating at the airport will be required to sign a service charter by the end of November to provide similar service to passengers.
When there is a customs issue, you say, oh, blame the CS Finance, the DG, the CG, KRA should be answerable. That will be a thing of the past, because now, under one entity, KA can now answer everything.
That particular proposal to have a service charter for the airports was mooted in 2018, but over the years has not been signed. Now, hopefully by the end of this month, they will put the signatures on that particular paper, opening up a different dispensation when it comes to service delivery across all our airports there to increase customer experience as well as, global competitiveness in as far as air transport is concerned. Now to bilateral trade ties, where Kenya and the Czech Republic have pledged to enhance their bilateral relations and exploit existing investment opportunities in the two countries. President Ruto said the two countries will soon sign a negotiated economic agreement that will see Kenya access duty-free and quota-free markets.
Speaking at State House, Nairobi, when he held bilateral talks with Czech Republic Prime Minister Petr Fiala, President William Ruto argued that an equal partnership was paramount for mutual benefits.
The economic partnership agreement that now has been concluded, and we will be signing it off on the 17th of December, that affords Kenya, being the first country in our region, to get quota-free, duty-free access to the European market.
IT technologies and space research is also very promising area. Our high-tech companies already work with Kenyan partners on development of small satellites.
Both countries signed bilateral agreements in various sectors, including agriculture, technology and health.
To accelerate growth in trade and investment, we have agreed on the following steps for immediate action. That the Czech Republic consider establishing a commercial hub in Nairobi and use Kenya's geostrategic advantage as a gateway for the broader regional and continental engagement in terms of trade and investment.
Kenya has always been our major economic partner in East Asia. Export to Kenya is about $20 million.
Elsewhere at Strathmore University, during African Continental Free Trade Conference, President Ruto challenged African universities to be at the forefront in pushing the intra-African trade and investments agenda.
I believe that the launch of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Policy and Development Center represents a pivotal moment in Africa's development journey. It provides a platform for us to work together in a borderless, cross-sectoral, multidisciplinary, and inclusive manner to build a prosperous future in which Africa is a globally competitive driver of world economic affairs.
Earlier, President Ruto chaired the Kenya Kwanza Parliamentary Group meeting, where he said to have marshaled support for the approval of Haiti mission by the Parliament, as well as backing for his State of the Nation address on Thursday.
The Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education KCSE examinations will go uninterrupted despite the government declaring 13th of November, that is Monday, a public holiday. Education Cabinet Secretary Mashujaa has confirmed that elaborate measures have been put in place to ensure no disruption of the exams. As Joseph Wakungu reports, over 10 suspects have been apprehended in connection with exam cheating. Here's Joseph with the details.
The Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education KCSE exam entered day 2 today, with government stepping up efforts to curb malpractices. Speaking when he supervised the opening and distribution of examination papers at the Kibera Deputy County Commissioner's office in Nairobi today, Basic Education Principal Secretary Dr. Belio Kipsang revealed that 10 suspects have so far been apprehended for purporting to be in possession of examination papers.
More than 10 of these people who have been playing around have been arrested. And I can assure all of us again that quite a number of these sites have been brought down. We are engaging with other jurisdictions to deal with some of the social media sites that require an extended engagement. But our colleagues at the Communication Authority, our colleagues who deal with cybercrime, I want to say thank you.
Dr. Kipsang said examination containers are being opened twice a day to minimize cheating. while reiterating that examinations will go on despite the government declaring 13th November 2023 a public holiday.
We are aware 13th was gazetted as an holiday next week, but we would want, having consulted with our colleagues, we are all agreeing that it will not have any impact on our examinations. What that tells us is that there is somebody in our process who is betraying our process, because this paper is not anywhere else, it's only in the exam room. So we must be vigilant, as the CEO said, in making sure that nobody goes to the exam room with a phone. We go to our old tradition where all the phones are left in your office.
He later monitored the administration of exams at Moi Girls High School in Kericho County, accompanied by Kenya National Examination Council Chief Executive Officer Dr. David Jegere, among others.
All the best to the students who are taking their exams there as we wait for the KCPE results with bated breath after the government announced that by December the results will be in. And also when it comes to the tree planting exercise, details are going to be following on exactly where and who is going to be officiating this particular, pioneer holiday. We've never had such in history, and I'm sure it goes in line with government's plan to increase the tree cover by 1.5 billion shillings investment there to have the tree and forest cover increased. Now on to security. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki says he will name and shame 19 individuals and entities sponsoring terrorism in the country. Speaking in Mkunubi, Lamu West constituency, after meeting security teams and community leaders, Kindiki said the sponsors will be required to answer to the charges. Additionally, the government will also plan to gazette new sub-locations in Lamu East and West to bring services closer to the residents and improve security. Abdiaziz Hashim with the details.
Interior and the National Administration Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki Tuesday morning arrived in Lamu County. Here he sought to address a raft of security matters after a spate of terror attacks in the county. After a meeting with the heads of security apparatus and community leaders from the region, he emerged to announce he will expose the identity of 19 individuals and entities bankrolling terror outfits in the country.
And we have applied Section 3 of the Prevention of Terrorism Act of 2012. The Inspector General of Police has given a show cause notice on 19 individuals and personalities who we have reason to believe are engaged in terrorism.
This coming weeks after the ministry released the names and pictures of 35 people believed to be part of the terrorist group Al-Shabaab who are terrorizing Lamu and Boni residents.
And subject to the responses that we get with those 7 days, we will be designating entities and personalities whom we believe are aiding terror in our country. So we are moving into extra application of all the laws we have to fight terror.
Kindiki also said they have beefed up security as the festive season approaches. He pledged to return to the county in 2 weeks to assess the security situation. Meanwhile, in Igembe North, irate residents took to the streets a day after Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki toured the county following an increase in cases of insecurity.
Na tumetupa watu wengi na hata ng'ombe simeenda na hata bado saa hii asijarundi. Na hakuna usaidizi yoyote tunapata.
Saa hii kuna wale wamelazwa hospitali. Tunaomba operation kali ipitie hapo mpaka hao wezi wako huko wapelekwe kwao.
The residents are demanding the government beefs up security.
More than 500 people in 3 locations within Kericho constituency, Homa Bay County, have been affected by floods after their homes were marooned by the raging floods following the ongoing heavy rains. The residents are now calling on the county and the national governments to intervene and provide them with a long-term solution.
Residents of Kamserinya, Congo, Central Kericho and Kogweno or Yang locations are feeling the brunt of the ongoing rains.
Hii maji imetusumbua for a long time. Tukienda huko kuna villages kama 20 hivi wanasumbuka. Alafu the other end kuna tena wengine wamehamishwa na maji. Mwingine amehamishwa asubuhi, mwingine anahama saa hizi.
A number of household items have been destroyed after the residents' houses were marooned by the floods. The situation that has made their houses inhabitable.
What we need to do or request the government that anything that they can assist the public, like in terms of food, beddings and nets, medicine, should be provided so that our people will not suffer a lot.
Tumeanza kufanya assessment ambayo inaitwa multisectoral. Kwa hivyo tumetoa watu kutoka idara tofauti. Tunafanya uchunguzi ili kujua mvua imeathiri watu wetu kiasi gani. Hivyo baadaye tutaweza kujua ni usaidizi gani inahitajika kwa wakati gani.
Elsewhere, over 200 families in the border town of Mororo between Garissa and Tana River counties have been displaced by the ongoing floods. The displaced persons have been forced to move to higher grounds for their safety and construct makeshift shelters. They are now calling for urgent intervention from the relevant authorities.
Tunaenda kusaidiana na wao tukishirikiana na county government kuhakikisha kwamba wale ambao nyumba zao zimeingia maji then wanapata shelter ya kuweza kuwasaidia kwa kipindi hichi.
Maji kidogo tu hata yanatujalia kwa nyumba.
Saa hii hata watoto hawana manguo za kuvaa. Tunafanya tu kusaidiwa na majirani wenye maji hajawaingilia ndio wanatupatia nguo kidogo, watoto wanajishikilia nayo.
Meanwhile, heavy rains have caused havoc in the central district of Busia County after cutting off road networks and sweeping off crops and electricity poles. The government has been called to intervene even as local leaders caution sand harvesters from continuing their trade, which is adversely worsening the situation.
Had they to have not minded the sand there, the soil here would not have been weak. So because of what was happening, so what has weakened these poles to fall down.
Tumanishie msaada, hatuna otherwise.
This again implies that next year we will be faced the aspect of food insecurity.
Kio wetland in Makueni County is the venue for the National Tree Growing Day on the 13th of November this year. Now, the exercise that will be presided over by President William Ruto comes a day after it was gazetted as a public holiday for national tree growing, which will be replicated across the 47 counties.
Monday, the 13th of November has been set aside for the National Tree Growing Day that will take place at the Kio Wetland in Makueni County and presided over by the head of state. Environment Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuye noted that Cabinet Secretaries will preside over the exercise in 2 counties each at an event that will be hosted by the area governors as the team leads with a target to reach 100 million seedlings on that day.
So if each Kenyan took upon themselves between Friday and Monday, even to do 2 seedlings, only 2 at the bare minimum, we will be able to reach 100 million seedlings just for this one day that we are setting aside.
Beyond Monday, tree growing activities will be cascaded to sub-counties and down to locations and sub-locations under the coordination of the National Government Administration Officers and sub-county environment committees.
And I want to urge all of us to record our tree growing activities in the Jazamiti application, which we are going to disseminate across the country for each Kenyan to be able to access.
The ministry is also targeting to grow 500 million trees during this short rain season and 1 billion seedlings during the April to June long rains period. The ministry hopes that the success of the exercise will convince the head of state to make this an annual event. Kenya National Highways Authority and Kenya Forest Service have meanwhile planted over 24,000 seedlings at the Kinale Forest.
Planting is one activity, but nurturing all those trees to they address what we require as a country is key.
We have a commitment to work with all the stakeholders in ensuring that Kiambu reaches 20%, because currently we are about 16.7 or 17% in terms of tree cover.
Community forest associations were incorporated in the activity to ensure they play their role in greening the country.
You're watching In the Headlines on Good Morning Kenya. We take our fast breather.
this is the first time it's happening in Africa.
That's where we can measure up where we really are.
أكبر فريق في الكرة التونسية.
Enyimba is Nigeria.
I want Mamelodi Sundowns to conquer Africa.
Angola's style is fighting and very fast players.
Tepe Mazembe ni ekipe isha kufanya histoire monde mzima.
عندنا طاقات كبيرة، عندنا طاقات لعابة كبار.
سيمباز تنزانيا.
أي بطولة هي بالنسبة لنا بتبقى أهم بطولة.
Celebrating the fact that Danielle and Carolina are now husband and wife legally. They just got married.
It was a mistake to fall in love with him. I was his brother's wife.
I know, my friend, but please stop torturing yourself with this.
I knew it! I had a feeling you were going to tell me something like this. How could you?
You're going to keep your mouth shut, Carolina. There is no way that I will let you talk. I swear that if you say one word, I will...
Vilevile pia mja akitekeleza kitu kibovu hata kikiwa kiasi cha mdudu chungu, bado Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala atakuwa ni mwenye kumlipa.
The day of judgment ni siku nzito sana ndugu yangu. Umekiandalia nini hicho kiyama? Lakini kama mikono yako imefanya kitendo cha kuua, ambao ni dhambi mbaya, dhambi kubwa, wewe siku ya kiyama utakuwa pahala pabaya.
The economy is projected to expand by 5.5% this year, then grow 6% next year, supported by rebound in agriculture, resilience of the services sector, and impact of government measures on priority sectors. Central Bank of Kenya Deputy Governor Dr. Susan Koech says despite the global uncertainties, Kenya's economy is expected to remain above the global and sub-Saharan Africa averages this and next year, pointing to the resilience and diversified nature of the economy.
Pressures negatively impacting on household balance sheets could push more people into economic challenges. Despite this, economists project that the Kenyan economy is rebounding from global disruptions such as foreign exchange pressures occasioned by a weak shilling and high fuel prices, and will grow to 5.5% this year, then accelerate to 6% next year, driven by a rebound in key priority sectors.
We now expect the 2023 GDP growth to close at about 4.9%, powered primarily by welcome resilience in services and a reversal of fortunes in agriculture output, especially in Q1 of this year. However, this accounting also reveals biting and unprecedented cost of living pressures, ravaging household balance sheets, and daily threatening to push back a good number of our people into wrenching poverty.
Agricultural output is expected to expand 5.0% if the country does not witness adverse weather, while the manufacturing sector could grow by about 2.6% due to household budgetary strain, while the construction sector could register an expansion of 4%.
The main resilience of the Kenyan economy comes from the following. One, the economy is well diversified away from the traditional agriculture sector, which accounts for about 22% of annual GDP, with the service sector and MSMEs playing an increasing role, demonstrating the presence of a dynamic private sector. This has enabled the economy to weather the multiple shocks faced, particularly in recent years.
Additionally, they say the government's commitment to honor its public debt obligations will put Kenya at an advantage to increase its financial inflows.
We have also seen the administration roll out significant fiscal adjustments with an outlined multi-step fiscal consolidation path anchored at a target deficit of 3% of GDP and a medium-term revenue strategy necessary to achieve this.
You need to plan based on the best possible. And actually, very often, what you want is to survive difficult times.
Sustain Africa and the African Fertilizer and Agribusiness Partnership have rolled out a fertilizer distribution plan targeting over 2 million farmers in the region. The initiative will see farmers trained on proper use of chemicals and different types of soils. The initiative will also train extension officers on how to customize crop soil and ecological zone specification of fertilizer blends in enhanced agricultural productivity in the country.
The African Fertilizer and Agribusiness Partnership Kenya Country Manager James Mutonyi says once implemented, the project will help deepen fertilizer use knowledge among farmers in Kenya.
Now we are able to mobilize most of the private and public and development sector into now bringing the issues that have affected the fertilizer sector right to the front page. So for us, it's a big milestone. We've received recognition, and we are very grateful to the government for the support that they're bringing in.
The project, being implemented through a collaboration with the Presidential Economic Transformation Secretariat, has multiple components including capacity building, monitoring evaluation, fertilizer advice, and government advisory.
The president has been talking about using data, value chain approach and data-driven approach to this, and that's why we have the scientists to ensure that as we look at the issue of the fertilizer use, the soil fertility, we are guided, we are led by data, we are led by science, and we provide a sustainable solution that will ensure we not only increase production, productivity, but we have sustainable and healthy soils for a longer period in this country.
The first project under Sustain Africa will be titled Kenya Access and Nutrient Use and will run up to August 2024. The initiative aims to support farmers in 7 other countries, namely Madagascar, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Mozambique, Uganda, Zambia and Malawi.
We have channeled 200,000 metric tons of fertilizer to 2 million farmers in 10 countries. We've operated a project budget of just over $50 million, and the total value of this fertilizer, due to the high prices of last year, was about 150.
Presidential Economic Transformation Secretariat Advisor Enrique has said the government is in the process of procuring more fertilizer to take advantage of the long rains in 2024. Kenya further says the government is in the process of expanding the fertilizer subsidy program to reach more farmers in the country.
To sports, where Kenya has reaffirmed its readiness to host the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations alongside Uganda and Tanzania. Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba says groundbreaking works for the Talanta Sports Complex, the crown jewel of the Games, will begin mid-December and conclude in 24 months. Ababu further highlighted the commencement of the upgrading and rehabilitation works of stadia that will be used as training grounds for players, even as he committed to pay Kenya's participation fee before January 2024.
Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba says Kenya will be ready to host the Africa Cup of Nations in 2027. Following the conclusion tour of the assessment of stadia across the country, Ababu confirms monies have been disbursed to commence the construction, upgrading and rehabilitation of 3 main stadiums in Nairobi and Kisumu, as well as 8 training facilities.
Kenya is readier than you can ever imagine. Tuko tayari mbaya sana
Groundbreaking works with the Talanta Complex Center, the crown jewel of the Games, are set for mid-September and will be completed by December 2025.
By the time the CAF team comes for final inspection at the end of 2025, we'll actually be ready for official opening for a sparkling new Talanta Sports City.
The government has pledged to pay up the participation fee before the set-out deadline. The state of affairs has also been mirrored by Uganda and Tanzania, who are also co-hosts of the Games.
We are ready to make the payment of $90 million, okay? The outlay on infrastructure is huge. We are ready to make that outlay, not just stadia, roads, rail, communication, security, safety, crowd control, all those things that go into making a tournament successful, hospitality, medical care, everything, the works. We are ready to make that investment because we believe this is not just an investment for a football tournament. It is an investment that will serve the people of East Africa well beyond AFCON 2027.
And we pray God to be there to see that. Now, yesterday, some teams also saw some dust when it comes to matters of soccer, and I'm talking about the results that are in from the Champions League. Let's look at how now Atletico Madrid thrashed Celtic or Celtic, depending on how you pronounce that name, 6-0. You know, it felt as if you're having a rugby game there. So it is 6-0 for Celtic. Then, well, Lazio there scored one against Fairmont. That is in the group stages. And then let's just focus on what happened in Group G. As far as yesterday's games are concerned, Man City there scored 3 goals against 0 against the Young Boys. Talking about PSG, that squared it out with Milan in Group F. Milan scored 2 goals against a solitary goal by PSG. Now let's focus on today's games because the very great Manchester United is also going to be playing tonight. And Manchester United is going to be squaring it out at 11 p.m. against FC Copenhagen. Well, and you know, and we hope that we actually prove our greatness as Manchester United fans. And well, Arsenal, that is Victor Oloz's team there, is going to be squaring it out at 11 p.m. same time against Sevilla. So God willing, tomorrow we'll be here to compare results. That's a couple of matters in the headlines this morning. Be sure to enjoy the rest of your viewing. I'm Regina Manyara.
Thank you so much, Regina, for that bulletin. And now we get straight into the viewpoint. And today our conversation is on the heavy rains that the weatherman has actually predicted, or actually told us that it should be ongoing up till January. So we want to look at the heavy rains and our food security as a country. The heavy rains are here. What are we doing with all this excess water? Now, I am joined by our biotechnologist, that is Professor Richard Oduor, who is the chairman, Kenya University Biotechnology Consortium, and he is here to just let us in on this particular discussion. Professor Oduor, welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you, Vivian.
If we might just get straight into probably just defining what food security is before we get into the conversation.
Well, there are several definitions for food security, but simply put, it is when a country is able loosely to feed its people for a given period of time. Meaning the moment a country is able to withstand calamities, for instance, that one single calamity does not take us off, you know, the balance, then at that particular point you say that that country is food secure.
Okay.
But before then, we will be continuously food insecure. And there are countries that have actually protected and reached that level of food security that can withstand a period of time. And it speaks to strategies, it speaks to planning, it speaks to preparedness.
Yeah, you said that there are countries that have actually reached that point. Where exactly are we as Kenya when it comes to our food security?
We are not in a very good place and stage because we have just come from very crazy episodes of drought, several cycles, and now we are here with the rains. But incessant, processes of drought will certainly lead to what we call, poor crop losses, and of course as a result you will notice that as a country we will start having hunger all over, famine and different livestock dying. And in this country we have diversity of sources of food. There are other communities that feed a lot more on or depend on livestock, others on particular crops. For instance, maize, if it's not in this country, we actually claim that we don't have enough food, which is another discussion because it's not right what is happening. And of course there are areas that when you don't see a lot of say Irish potato, waru, so different parts of this country have unique sort of desire for certain foods. And as a country, we, because of those several things, climate change, we are talking about pests, diseases that are affecting crop yields or crop production, you will realize that we get to a point where the country is unable to meet its annual demand or basket for food. And that then means that as a country we are really at a bad place. We are talking about unga for instance is skyrocketing, the prices of food stuff, and other things that are contributing to food production. The prices are high, and if that happens, then as a country we start now veering off very actively. And this time round, look at the fuel costing, for instance, and that is part of the factors that really contribute to food production. So it's a very compounded situation, and as a country I think we need to discuss a little bit more than what we are currently doing as a country.
Yeah, you've spoken about hunger, which we actually have experienced this year. We're not talking about something that happened 2, 3 years, 5 years ago. This year we experienced some parts of the country experiencing a hunger strike, and the Constitution clearly stipulates that every person has the right to be free from hunger and to have adequate food and acceptable quality. What is it that we are not doing right as a country that we are not able to meet this?
Well, many things. Some can be solved, others are catastrophes, like when we talk about El Nino, for instance. We have no control over that, apart from just blaming the climate change. Probably from our end, we only needed to look into strategies for preparedness when the water hits the ground. What do we do as a country? But others are a lot more about what we plan, our strategies as a country. What we are not doing correctly starts from the whole value chain of food production, right from soil preparation to post-harvest. Vivian, before you plant, there is data that is available in this country. For instance, from meteorological, they have a fair way of focusing, and therefore you're likely to get to know whether we are going to get enough rains or we are going to have a bit of drought, and this actually happens a bit early. So what do we do with that data when we get it from meteorological? If they say, for instance, that we will have a bit of a lot of rain, for instance, now, what have we done early enough to prepare ourselves? And when they say we won't have enough rain, what does that mean for a good country to plan? What it means, therefore, if they project that we'll have X milliliters of water this time round, then we need as a country to start looking at within that amount of water that we've been informed about. What kind of crops will survive that? So that you start even thinking in terms of profiling what kind of seeds you want to have, what are early maturing. Do we go for beans instead of cassava that takes a year? Do we go for maize, or we go for smaller, early maturing crops? And that is acceptable. So it's about strategy. Then once you've prepared your ground ahead of planting, then when it gets to time for planting, you must also decide which seed are you planting. Are you planting one that is insect protected through biotechnology? Are you planting one that is probably disease protected? Then once you've planted, are you weeding agronomic processes in time? Because you must also weed on time. The crops that require pruning, say tomatoes and others, must be pruned at the right time. Are we very alert in that sequence? Because as we are talking now, we don't even have enough, if any, extension officers even to let us know at what point do you apply even the fertilizers. At what point we don't have enough. It is a dying sector. Extension officers are critical. When we were growing up, there used to be people from Ministry of Agriculture who would actually come on bikes or motorbikes to the villages looking at, the kind of diseases that are popping up, telling you how to even plant, what kind of seeds, weeding time this disease is coming. Those guys are no longer here. I don't know whether you still see them. They are not there. I know there are efforts to try and revive that, but it needs to be faster. Because now we are having fertilizers, for instance. How does a farmer who has never actually even seen these fertilizers in the village, and remember this country is largely small-scale farmer, will know when to put what kind of fertilizers? And have we done, and this is a very unfortunate state, that as a country, we don't have a very good platform in terms of even getting to know, to test the soil. Do you know different sections of this country have different soil types? Others have higher pH, others are lower acidic, others have different nutrients. So it's not the same. So when you do that, then you even get to know what kind of, fertilizers and farm inputs. It's not a one shoe. But even after harvesting, because you have harvested, for instance, you've harvested cassava, you've harvested your maize, how do you handle the product? Because many a times we get sufficient harvest, for example, for maize, but over time you realize we did not store it very well, so we get aflatoxin. Again, maize, we have struggled with it all through up to harvesting. Then we lose it at the point of storage because we didn't store well, we did not handle it at the right place. For instance, cassava. When you harvest cassava, within 2-3 days, it's already getting, bad because of, the bioactives that get oxidated, and therefore it enhances the process of degeneration of cassava. That again affects cassava. So what are the planned post-harvest losses? How do we control this? Do we therefore convert cassava quickly into other forms, crepes, probably dry it, make it into flour, other mechanism? And there are a lot of strategies that we can use after that. So it is a combination of the entire value chain. Even when we are transporting, does the person who is transporting actually say tomatoes from where, aware of the perishability of tomatoes, so that he doesn't waste time even in terms of distributing it? If he gets a puncture along the way traveling to Nairobi, for instance, is he aware that we need to figure out how to transfer this to another probably vehicle so that it gets to Nairobi on time, rather than waiting to fix your tire that will take a day or two and they are getting perishable? To what extent have we really trained this, the people within the stakeholders within the entire value chain? That is a very, very important discussion, and we need to start that discussion very actively.
And why does it seem that we always seem to be caught unawares? Because we knew that El Nino was going to be here, then it was like, we were not sure. It was wishy-washy. Was it going to come? Was it not going to come? But the weatherman had already told us that El Nino will be here in October. It didn't really get here in October, but November, we are experiencing it at the moment. Why do we always seem to be caught off guard? Is it that we just do not prepare, or is it sheer negligence?
Vivian, you're asking a very technical question, because it is true that the weatherman told us way early that there will be El Nino. But, the precision of it, if it was in October, then it moved to November. But also they indicated that the peak will be November. That was actually discussed. But as Kenyans, us, we are the same people. When we didn't see it in October, we were just like, these guys are liars. They are not.
But I'm thinking our leaders, not us as the common people. We can say whatever we want, but our leaders.
Yes.
I mean, didn't they prepare? Money was set aside for El Nino.
You're right, and probably my rejoinder to that would be that yes, it is a combination of both unpreparedness and also sheer negligence, like you're saying. From where I sit, I think that a well-planned country benefits from the data, so that the decisions are science-based and data-based. That way, you make a very precise plan and strategy that can withstand whatever, unexpected or unintended occurrences. As a country, we needed to have, first of all, prepared a bit early in terms of, first of all, warning. It is really saddening that we are seeing our brothers and sisters being washed away and their properties in the coastal region. And this will spread out to many parts of this country if these rains continue the way we are currently seeing them. If this continues, really, we first of all expected, because the government has all the systems, including Nyumba Kumi, which is the smallest unit really currently, we needed to have activated those kind of channels so that our brothers and sisters are not caught unawares like we are currently seeing. So yes, we were not prepared. But more importantly, what were we supposed to have done a bit early? Right now it's a bit late. We can't say that we are going to collect that water and do anything useful with it now if we didn't do the dams ahead of time. So sometimes as a county, as a country, both county governments and national government, they need to really synchronize on certain things. Well, I'm aware that, and we are aware that agriculture is a devolved function, but certain things really need to be spoken. There needs to be harmony between the two governments, so that there is concerted efforts towards solving certain problems. Now we needed to have thought about dams. We needed to have thought about what are the crops that will be early maturing, what are the crops that will withstand the floods, because they are there. We don't need to, we need to start thinking about improving certain seeds so that the crops have stronger stems or stalk, so that when the floods come they don't need lodging a lot more. What is the thinking? Shouldn't we have thought about figuring out, when this water is happening, what are the areas that, even within those flooding environments, you'll notice the neighboring areas are not overly flooding. Have we mapped those so that even with this flood, there are areas that are still doing a bit of agriculture to sustain us? Because as it is, we are focused on the floods and probably not discussing around that area. Where are the areas that are left or projected to be a little off the ground, that we can still ensure that we are still doing a bit of agriculture? Because once we are done with making sure that they are safe, taking them to higher grounds, then the next thing is hunger. The next thing is a disease. So we are talking about hunger immediately, but the disease will be here shortly. Waterborne diseases, the cholera will be here shortly. All these other crazy diseases will be here with this. And once it goes through that, then it spreads out in the entire country. Then the pressure starts on the government and even the systems that we have. So we were not prepared, and that is very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. We were not prepared. And our leaders, we knew, but we never take the data seriously. I think we've been treated to a lot of disappointments, that we even think that certain national calamities will not happen and it's just sheer threat. But it's not the truth. The truth is that these things do happen, and this is not the end of it. We should start again planning for the next, going forward. So
this means there's nothing we can do right now. As you've said, there's really nothing we can do with the excess water that is here, because it's plenty of water. We see places, are looking flooded, that are flooded and all. So there's absolutely nothing we can do to conserve this water. What are we doing with all this excess water?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. One, we need to stay away from it because it's dangerous. It will flood away the best strategy is to try and keep and handle or collect the little that we have, the little food that we have, the animals that probably we have now, move them to safer grounds first of all. But quickly, if we had dams that were already about to be done, we can channel this water that direction. But it might be a bit, foolhardy to think that we can start digging dams now and complete them on time and then guide the water. So for now, we are we are only hoping that there are a few dams that were, developed earlier on, that we can divert a bit of this water. But it is not new. We will continue singing about it. But I think, if I'm asked, my opinion would be to advise the government quickly to start thinking very actively, because this area is known. It's the Kano area, it is the coastal area, it is the Budalangi areas. You can actually just name them very quickly, that it will happen, even with just normal rains. So my thinking is that we need a long-lasting solution to this, even diverting the water so that when it comes, the route moves to probably a nearby river, so that it gets to the course of the river and it moves to the final destination, would still help. Just guarding them with the gabions quickly, but that is now trying to solve the problem, not using the water. Now we are more reactive than being proactive with calamities. And that is an area that really we need to start thinking about very actively as a country.
Do we really as a country do risk assessment? Do we do that?
Well, you would, as a government, there are different bodies and organizations that really are involved in surveys and even getting the data. And I am privileged to serve in one, which is Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, KNBS, which is the custodian of the official statistics for this country. And what that would mean that over time, and depending on the need, KNBS would go out there to collect data that is very critical for the government to make decisions. So yes, the data is there. And there are different things. There are the economic surveys that are done. There is, even if you talk about risk assessment, you can even look at the census that we do, household and census that we do after 10 years. That's also a very interesting area that can help the government to project many things. But every year, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics gives economic survey data for this country, and every month there is that update of the monthly publications that come out, the quarterly publication, the half-yearly, and of course the annual publication. This information is available. By the way, I'll tell you without fear of contradiction, Vivian, that the government doesn't lack information. It's well serviced. It has the best of the departments. State departments are many, and the people who are, you will be surprised that the civil servants are overly trained. Very, very good brains are in there. What I feel from where I sit is probably we need to coordinate and empower them a little bit more, so that they are not overly cautious like always they are. Civil servants are very cautious people. They don't want to be seen, because in civil service there are ranks. You cannot just pop up with something that should be done by a PS and you, a senior officer, I think that you can make that decision. And those ranks are there for a reason, but sometimes I feel the bureaucracy sometimes stifles some people with very, very good brains. So from where I sit, I feel the government has enough information. We cannot even talk about risk assessment. They know that when meteorological department says that, hey, there will be, heavy rains, that's already an assessment there, their rain, that, hey, plan very well. And these things can be seen ahead of time. And over time, the strategic department really needs State Department of Planning and Development and Economic Development is there, and it does all this kind of planning. So, and even development partners have a very fair understanding of what happens in this country, because they also initiate their own risk assessment and projections for the countries. And Kenya is not just a single country; it sits within East Africa and Africa and the global economy. So, it's not very probably strategic to claim that we don't have enough data in terms of risk assessment, and that's the reason. The thing is that we just need to man up as a country, figure it out very quickly and stop this, circular or more or less incessant cycles of calamities one after another. If it is not floods, it will be rains. If it's not rains, it will be diseases, or if it's not that, it will be livestock dying. So, and that's okay. There is no country that lacks these kind of things hitting them. The drought is not unique to Kenya. Diseases are not unique to Kenya. Even El Nino is not unique to Kenya. But how prepared are we as a country? So that is a deeper discussion, and it's an area of concern, and it's important that even now the county governments, the governors themselves, and those in areas that are really affected should really think actively, because we know them. We know these areas. So we can never, we can't come back every year, saying anytime we have calamities that we are shocked. We are not. So on this one, I think the leadership needs to figure it a little bit more than what is currently happening.
All right, Prof. On that note, we take a short break, but we'll be back to continue with this conversation.
In a world filled with uncertainty, there is one thing we can always count on: the power of compassion and generosity. Every day, families in Kenya face unimaginable challenges and hardships. They struggle to put food on the table, provide shelter for their loved ones, and access basic health care. But today, you have the power to make a difference. By just contributing 1 shilling and 50 cents from your airtime, your generosity can provide access to sanitary pads, nutritious food, clean water, education, and life-saving medical care to those who need it most. To support this cause, please tune in to your favorite radio station under the KBC umbrella for step-by-step instructions on how to subscribe. KBC Helping Hands. Together, we can make a difference and bring hope to those in need.
KBC Channel 1 magazine programs strive to disseminate news and information.
Welcome to Happening in the World of Entertainment
and achievements of individuals navigating through life.
Be part of the intelligent conversation upon KBC Channel 1.
Related to the interest of Kenyan public on various subjects of national importance.
Keeping you up to date with the latest tech news,
challenges, and remarkable stories of individuals with disabilities.
You have a say.
Our magazine programs empower communities with words for conversations and a common language to approach the world.
For your infotainment needs, we have a great range of programs.
At exactly 37 minutes past 7, we get to continue with the conversation that we had already started right here on The Viewpoint, where we were talking about heavy rains and food security, and we were just looking at how prepared we were as a nation for these rains, that is the El Nino rains. And unfortunately, according to Professor Richard Odwor, we were not really well prepared because all this excess water seems to be going to waste. We're not conserving them anywhere. But Prof, if I may just get into, I want us to look into agriculture, and you tell us what are some of the trends that are emerging in agriculture that may help our country when it comes to food security.
Thank you, Vivian. I think very largely that as a government, there are new trends that we can pick up very quickly. Mm-hmm. We have digitalization of agriculture. There are things in biotechnology, and that's an area I'm very comfortable with, in the crop improvements against constraints, and probably I'll talk about that. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of desire to do precision agriculture, and of course remote sensing. There is now emerging trends around the machine learning and AI, artificial intelligence. How do we then modernize our agriculture? And all those areas are very interesting. We need to start benefiting from the data that is coming all through the system. But more importantly, we need to appreciate that the climate is changing. The El Ninos will be here, the drought will be here, pests will be here, and diseases will be here. That is when now scientists, like many of us who are in biotechnology and in crop development and improvement, need to come in and help aggressively. And we have been doing. That is when we need to look at what are the seeds that we have that are tolerant, for instance, to drought. And we can make seeds that are tolerant to pests. And this is a discussion of modern crop improvement. And in this country, every time you talk about the biotech, people really, trivialize the discussion and they zoom into, genetically modified foods, which I have done that from 2005 to now in this country. And therefore, there are a lot of misgivings around it. And that is the reason why I'm here, because at Kenyatta University, where I serve as the Registrar of Research, Innovation and Outreach, and also having been in the lab and head of the lab that does genetic engineering at Kenyatta University for the last 18 or so years, we need to start appreciating, and we need to take our scientists to action that, hey, what are you doing to solve these problems? And that is very, very important. So there are emerging trends, and we can develop, them very quickly and confer them to this country for application.
Yeah. Now that you've touched on the genetically modified organisms, GMOs, we know that the ban was lifted on GMOs, but the Law Society of Kenya, still insists that it is not safe for us, especially the genetically modified maize. There's a gene, they say that it is not safe. The biosafety, it could raise biosafety issues, with our animals, humans, and the environment as well. You say that this is actually your area.
Yes.
Where they say where there's smoke, there's fire. Why is it that these learned fellows keep insisting that this thing is not safe?
Well, it's not. I was privileged recently in their annual conference in Diani, and I gave a keynote address about climate change and theory to, to practice and all that. And they were surprised the kind of information that we have as a country, that they had never known about this. And of course, the court dismissed that kind of claim in the recent ruling, which is a very good thing for this country. But just to probably realign your thoughts a little bit around the ban, the ban that was mounted against the GMO importation and consumption was in 2012. The president, through a cabinet, dispatch, attempted to, lift that, and there are a number of court cases that went into our judicial system. I think we have 3 or 4 now still remaining. But what is more interesting is that, of course, the BT cotton, the biotech cotton, is already in the field, and the farmers are already sampling that. So a lot of things. It's a very interesting discussion. When people actually have concerns around the GMO, I usually say that that's a very good position to be in, because for every technology, any technology that is new, there is usually that concern, and that is acceptable. It only becomes unfortunate if the concern you don't know when to stop making it a concern, because we must understand that technologies have a lifetime. There are no technologies that are forever constant. They keep changing. And if we don't work very quickly towards our ability to adopt technologies when they are useful, we will suffer. And Vivian, let me just highlight a few things. Do you know the rest of the world developed because they were using coal to generate energy? And that is what they used. Even the UK right now, actually next year is when they will decommission the last coal plantation. But do you know later on, we have enough coal deposits in this country, in Kitui and other parts of this country, and we can't use it. Yet the rest of the world used coal to develop, they industrialize themselves. So right now it is classified as dirty source of energy, and therefore it's not desirable. Then later on, there was mechanization. We call it green revolution, all right? Which meant that we needed to put a lot more mechanization, tractors, fertilizers, all these things, farm inputs, so that we can increase the yield. It helped India, Asia, America, lower Brazils, and all the South Americans, Mexico. They became food secure. Do you know? We were still wondering what are these tractors. It's right now when we are using a lot more of tractors to even harvest and all this kind of stuff. But do you know there is again another caveat? Right now it's called carbon credit. We are being asked how much of carbon credit, has this your vegetable produced in the environment before we export it. Yet the rest of the world have already benefited from the green revolution. Then, now we didn't again benefit from that. Then in 1990, the GMO that you see is a very interesting debate in this country. The first GM product was commercialized in 1994. Mathematics will remind you that that is 29 years. We are shying away from just 29 years of eating GMO. In the US. The headquarters of the anti-GMOs, even including Greenpeace, are in the US, which they have left, and that is where it started in 1994. Up to now, they left the US eating those GMOs, but they love us so much, they have come in Africa, and now it causes cancer, it causes, diseases. It's so bad for us. Yet for 29 years, it has been eaten. And let me tell you what is sad, and this is because I do GM. I have learned, my PhD was in genetic engineering, making, maize that is drought tolerant. My postdoc was in drug discovery, so I'm a little privileged in terms of knowing what is good for health and what is good for food. What is so sad, Vivian, is like right now, the GMO that we've been talking about here is almost 30 years. I can tell you, now we have moved to something we are calling genome editing. It is no longer, again, this GMO that you are hearing here. So again, we have not benefited. What I think is unfortunate is that Africans, and particularly Kenyans, we need to figure out what is this game that is happening globally. We need to figure it out. And the game is, you can see the thread, that every time a technology is there, we still debate a lot more. We don't benefit, it moves. Again, it was about green revolution. We didn't make use of it on time. Now we are in the carbon credit. Again, we've dropped. Then GMO came in, 30 years, now it's gone. We have been debating up to now. And in the next few years, and EU is already talking about genome editing products. That is where we are headed. This is the thing. There is nothing wrong with GMOs that have gone through the process of approval. It takes 15 years to make those things. And just for simplistic reasons, when you are eating ugali and beef, you don't go in there to remove the DNA. You're eating them with the entire DNA. How come you don't wake up with horns and you ate the DNA from cows? So when did it become, so in your mouth when you are eating ugali, beef and ugali and kachumbari next to it, you have eaten the DNA of tomato, you have eaten the DNA of cows and also of maize in your mouth, and you don't wake up with leaves. There is something about the DNA that people don't know, and unfortunately they have failed to understand, because then if we are eating beef, it's because you want the DNA that is in there, the proteins that it produces. That protein is produced by a DNA. So that DNA, if I move it, imagine, and put it into maize, now maize is GMO. That time we called maize GMO, and now it causes cancer. How did it, what kind of madness is this really?
So what you're saying is just that we are not well educated, we are not well informed about this.
We are actually being played. It's a narrative. And Africans, it is so sad, but it's a narrative that we slow down. Let me give you another example. Do you know also the telephony? The mobile technology, we were also not about to benefit from it had it not just been for our own madness. Remember at the beginning, we were being told it causes, ionizing something, radiation, and we were being sold things like the anti-radiation something, the cover. You remember that story? It is just because Safaricom was here, and started saying, no, this is a good technology, you guys, it is here, it is good for and we looked at the positive. If we never did that, we will still be struggling even in the mobile phone. So every technology must be actually controlled, and that is why the GMO production, we have National Biosafety Authority. Even this is it, and this is probably my parting shot on this. Can you imagine what people said during when the first time the plane was, taking off? There must have been discussions around, who is this person? This technology is competing with even God, flying like angels on the air, and there's nothing holding. This is a very wrong technology. But trust me, without a plane, nobody will ever have touched, even the grounds of the US or any other. The safest way to move is by walking. from here to Mombasa actually is the safest. But how many of us? We use, motorbikes, we use buses, and all of them. We even import vehicles that are 8 years old, and they come here and we brand them new number plates, and it's very safe. Why do we get that confidence? It's because we have NTSA to deal with inspection, because we have, driving schools happening, and that is what we are saying. You cannot stop technology. What we are saying, allow National Biosafety Authority to do its work. It is established by the Biosafety Act 2009. It has the best competencies in there. As scientists are also living in this country, all we are looking for is the best thing for this country. And GMO, I will repeat and again, it is safe.
Okay.
Very safe.
All right, Prof. Now, as we wind up with this conversation, I want you to give us your last remark as a biotechnologist on the rains and our food security. Your last remark on that.
Well, it is unfortunate that we are again losing the water. How I advise that in the future we plan very well, particularly on devolved function like agriculture. We can speak, the two different governments can speak in one voice in terms of building dams, and more importantly, my sympathies to our brothers and sisters really who are right now undergoing a lot of displacement because of this. But more importantly, let's plan well. Let's always respect science and data. Meteorological department had already indicated that, but as always, we missed it. Let's plan better for the future.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on this discussion and for letting us in and giving us your thoughts on this matter. Now, I'll be taking a short break from here, and Victor will be taking over in a moment. I hope that you have gotten to take a word or two from Professor Richard Odor, who is the chairman, Kenya University Biotechnology Consortium.
Celebrating the fact that Danielle and Carolina are now husband and wife legally. They just got married.
It was a mistake to fall in love with him. I was his brother's wife.
I know, my friend, but please stop torturing yourself with this.
I knew it! I had a feeling you were going to tell me something like this. How could you?
You're going to keep your mouth shut, Carolina. There is no way that I will let you talk. I swear that if you say one word, I will...
Jah will never leave our bound down wayside. He will never leave I alone. Jah will never leave our bound down wayside. So if you should choose Jah, you're serving the Lord, your Creator. The sins of the Father are visited from all in a never-ending circle. I'm still here in the house of Bedside, for the love.
Childhood mortality, or in simple terms, childhood deaths, is an indicator of a society's or a nation's well-being and socio-economic status.
From this report again, we see that there is high male-female mortality compared to female. Under 5 mortality is at par in both rural and urban, is at 41 deaths per 1,000 live births.
But what are some of the interventions that are being put, and what would you advise?
Delivery at a health facility will improve the chances of the mother and the child survive.
Good morning, welcome back. Whatever you're seeing here on the screen is your traffic situation. I want us to take a look at what we have on our traffic right now. It's a few minutes to 8 o'clock. That is 7 minutes to 8 o'clock. If you're still watching us from home, let me give you a quick traffic update. Starting with the capital city, today looks not so good. Most of the major roads in the city are not so okay. Today, let me start with Ngong Road. There's a problem along Ngong Road. I don't know what's happening there today. All the way from Kenya Science Campus there, that's around Junction Mall, there's a lot of traffic coming down towards, that is RFU ground. There's a bit of some traffic coming towards that direction, coming all the way to Prestige Plaza. That today in Ngong Road is not so okay. Now that extends as you come towards City Mortuary, the roundabout there, is also a mess, and that also moves towards that's DOD. But once you start coming down to Valley Road, it's all okay as you get into the CBD. Now that is according to what's here on Ngong Road. So at Ngong Road today, you'll have to be a bit patient. The same replicates itself on Langata Road. Langata Road, just after the bypass at the Uhuru Gardens, is now a mess. Moving pole. I think because it's almost 8 a.m. and majority of Kenyans are now leaving. That extends past Wilson Airport as you come towards the T-Mall roundabout there, and that also spills over as you head towards Bagadi Way, towards the City Mortuary. Today, the roads are not so okay. But if you're using Mombasa Road, so far so good. What Mombasa Road, you have a moment to celebrate as you drive to work or as you come to the city center. That is what it's like on Mombasa Road. Thika Road, something has to be done. We all remember how Thika Road used to be like years ago, before we had the Thika Superhighway, thanks to the late President Mwai Kibaki. But a majority of Kenyans are still suffering, mostly as you come towards KCA University, down to Kenya Utalii Hotel, as you come towards that is Pangani, interchange there, and that usually spills over to Mudhaiga, that is now along Kiambu Road. Always a mess. Something has to be done about this interchange. Not so sure what really happens there, because I think most people come all the way from Kiambu Road, then they use the interchange, and some of them actually use even the service lane. That's where that problem is usually there. But watu Ngong, Jogo Road, mkoaje lakini, watu Islando, massive. So far so good, looking not so bad as you come towards the CBD. So far, watu Ngong, Jogo Road, it's a bit messy as you come just after Makadara, Sita Buruburu there, as you come towards the city roundabout, City Stadium there. Not so good, but hey, that is where we are. What about those people who are in Kisumu? Kisumu, good morning. I hope so far so good. Nothing to report about. Kondele roundabout looking so okay. That is Kisumu, very okay. All the way from Lake Basin Mall there, coming to the CBD. Kisumu, what's happening? Amko or what's up? Heading to the airport, also looking fine. Okay, and finally, Mombasa, good morning. I hope mko salama as well. That is how do you call it? The Nyali Road, all the way from Malindi Road, coming all the way from Pirates Beach down to all the way coming towards the Kongoya Market. So far, so good. Mombasa, mko sawa lakini. Thank you so much. Today looks okay. Even at the new Nyali Bridge, looking so fine. That is what the situation is like at the Mombasa city. But then now, as you come towards the ferry channel, most of it is on the other side of Likoni. That is where the problem is. I think majority of people are now crossing from the other side of Likoni to Mombasa, the island now. That's why there is this red patch here. And for those who know, there's always a very long queue around this area where people usually wait for the ferry to come either side to pick passengers to either side of the island. That is what is there. But so far, it looks good. At this time of the year, all of us know that for some of us who've never been to Mombasa, I don't know whether Boshe has never been to Mombasa or Wakili Gesore. Gesore, do we have a lake in Kisii? No, I don't think so. We don't. We don't. We have seasonal rivers in Kisii. Yeah? Good to see you, gentlemen and lady. That's where we are. Boshe, Wakili, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning,
lady
Kenya.
in amidst three men. Today, is it gender parity? Are we going to be crucified for this? 3 against 1.
3 against 1?
Yes.
Certainly. You need to make up for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for this.
We need to.
Karibu. Karibu sana to the program, as well as Wakili Gibson Gesore. Karibu sana. Let's talk about what's really happened very quickly on the front page of local dailies. Let me take you through the front page of the Star newspaper. UD MPs confront, that is quote unquote, confront Ruto over cost of living. Legislators warn cost of living is making Kenya Kwanza unpopular with the Kenyans. They had a PG yesterday in State House, and it's also said that a majority of Kenya Kwanza legislators raised that concern with the president. But we also understand that the president is not so easy on that. He said that the fuel subsidy is out of question. Let me start with you, the only lady here. On the front page, UD MPs confront Ruto over cost of living, but he's hell-bent that it's not part of the question for Kenya Kwanza. What do you make of this? Wakili.
You know, the cost of living. First, let me say good morning, Kenya.
Karibu.
And good morning to you as well and my fellow panelists today. You know, the question of the cost of living was actually part of the UDA manifesto. It's not just a manifesto question, but it's also a constitutional issue. It's therefore at the center, at the fore of any government or any governance issues. So it therefore would be a mismatch to say that it's not an agenda for immediate or urgent consideration. We'll see, for instance, the question of fuel affects every other sector in the country.
Yeah.
It affects transportation of food and other goods, meaning therefore the price of unga will go up, the price of mboga will go up. Effectively also then, Kenyans will not be able to afford food. They will not then be able to buy from Mama Mboga. So even the bottom of Kenya's economy, everybody across the ladder will therefore be affected. So the issue of the cost of living, the issue of fuel is at the center. It is indeed at the heart of any government, and the ability therefore to provide, you know, even reasonable standards for its people. Yeah.
Ireri, are you amused out of this? Did you expect this to happen? At some point, it was going to come from within.
Actually, that was expected because the politicians, especially the Kenya Kwanza, they came into power with the promise that there will be for Wajiko, over the common man. The common man, the Mwananchi, is right now feeling the pain, the weight when the cost of living is high. And actually that is threatening even their re-election if it goes like that. That's why actually they are able to face the president and tell him that, this cost of living is signals of danger even to our political careers. Actually, that was expected, and something must be done into that. If at all, Kenya Kwanza has to remain in the grip of the Mwananchi. Otherwise, the way things are going, the basic commodity, the prices of basic commodities going up, price of fuel going up day by day, and actually we are told to prepare for the worst because soon it may reach the record high of even with that kind of economy and the cost of living going high. Actually, it's a big problem. Not only to the Kenya Kwanza, but the whole government. And so that is why actually the legislature or in the meeting, they were able to tell the president on the face something has to be done.
Very well. Wakili Gibson, you know, according to sources who are present there, said that they raised the concern with the president that the cost of living is making them unpopular. So it's... can I say that the the pyramid is now shifting from what it used to a year ago and now, because at the end of the day, the ripple effect will be with the common mwananchi. And when you hear legislators saying that it's making them to be unpopular, something is not okay.
Yeah, something is definitely not okay. Let me take this opportunity to say hi to all Kenyans and wish them well in this rainy season. Some of them are having trouble. They are being troubled while traveling.
Yeah.
Especially in Nairobi. Anytime it drizzles, it's a recipe for disaster. And I understand in Mandera up north, there is a whole town which is underwater. The issue of cost of living, Victor, is something which is with us and something which we need to acknowledge as Kenyans, that we do not expect magic to happen in a day, but then other people say it has taken a year for this regime to actually put things right. This particular year is what now the Kenyans are saying, you guys can no longer keep using excuses. Yeah. You said that the cost of food is going to come down significantly. You have had a year. The harvest has happened. Can we see much more than that? The other question is the issue of fuel. I think that is the most important question, whereby we have to deal with a situation whereby a CS keeps referring to some international articles and does not, seems to be aloof with the circumstances which are happening. And people are asking, where are you reading? The own record, our own records from the CBK seem to be reading otherwise. We have our neighbors, Tanzania, who are, of course, having the prices come down. Uganda has since pulled out of our equation of fuel purchasing. Something seems to be amiss. And these things are what are making Kenyans get concerned. The cost of living seems to be going up instead of coming down, and they have had their time.
I have my well. We were told that if you cannot afford the cost of fuel, chimba kisima yako. I have mine.
Yes, and such statements, of course,
but please don't come near my
clearly tell you that the regime is no longer concerned about the needs of Kenyans.
You know, at the end of the day, this same question was also on the front page of the Daily Nation. Kenya Kwanza MPs plea to Ruto on fuel. Daily Nation described it that some Kenya Kwanza MPs yesterday pleaded the president to reintroduce the fuel subsidy program, lamenting that the constituents are increasingly becoming hostile to them because of the high pump prices as well as additional taxes. A section of ruling party legislators were also said to have spoken out against the planned deployment of Kenya's police officers on a UN peace mission in Haiti. But then now, let's just come back home. Still on the front page. 1 year down the line, probably somebody has not put down the Bible. I hope somebody not listen to that. Nikeka to Biblia chini, things will be. But Kenyans, human beings are impatient. We need instant solutions. And, you know, Njoki, at the end of the day, the buck will always stop at the doorstep with the president. Kenyans will say, you don't have to give us more promises. 1 year down the line, we voted, yes, we did our part. So what's your part of the bargain?
You see, the thing really is that, one, leadership is of course not easy.
Yeah.
The second thing is that we also, as citizens, have certain legitimate expectation upon the people that then we have elected. The challenge is, again, because how people get into office is then because of election, people would make certain commitments. But then, of course, when now you get in, you realize, kumbe mambo kwa ground ni different kidogo. Because, and that is perhaps one of the reasons why we always say that before, for instance, you take over the reins of power or governance of an institution, that it is important to also be inside, understand how certain things work, so that by the time then you're giving certain commitments, you have understood the terrain, and you've been able to ask yourself, are these commitments I can be able to keep? So yes, commitments were made. Now, there is a difficulty in actualizing those commitments. And the tragedy then is that it is not just the president who is elected. We also have the members of parliament, as you have alluded to, who then have also been elected. And each one of them has to account to Wanjiku. You see? So that then places us in a situation whereby what perhaps we need now to have the government and our elected leaders perhaps considering is what are some of the creative mechanisms that can then be implemented to, in a manner that then makes Wanjiku feel okay.
For example?
Our needs are being taken into account. If, and you remember when the issue of the subsidy was being introduced, it was because of the same context, right? For instance, you remember also during COVID, certain deductions were made. Even it got to a point where transaction charges, for instance, for M-Pesa, for bank transfers, was kept off for purposes of then encouraging Kenyans to transact online, isn't it? And also that then took into account the distress that people were in. So right now, one of the things that the government needs to really deliberately consider is the question of taxes. Because that is really causing Kenyans to feel, okay, we have a government, they may have been unable to deliver on certain issues, but now they're also increasing the taxes, right? So there are certain measures, even within, there are certain discretions that the executive has that then it could put in place to cushion Kenyans in this harsh economy. I mean, we've seen we have floods, right? So let's get creative about the interventions.
Let's get creative. But Mwathi, what kind of creativity do we need here? I mean, we all know Kenyans will throw stones at whatever passes in the name of bring down the cost of living.
Salim put it clearly that you have said it's 1 year down the line. Let me inform you that, and the Mwananchi and the listener, that we are not 1 year down the line. We are 25% of the Kenya Kwanza period. Because 5 years is 60 months. We are already more than, we are just about 15 months since we held our election. So 25% of their time is gone. There's no way you convince anybody that you are taking more than 25% of your period just to do preparations. So actually, the way things are, Mwananchi is not over-expecting. Otherwise, having gone 25% of the time, things need to be moving on.
So what will change?
So you have asked about
what will change? 25% gone already.
I think
Wanjiku is saying, wait a minute.
Yes.
So at what point will this 25% change to the other side that Mwananchi will say, okay, something is happening now?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With the government having that time having gone and given, Mwananchi having given the government that period to prepare, right now we should be seeing things going. You have asked what, we need to think outside the box. As per me, that 25% we are talking of 2 rainy seasons, for example. Maybe the areas, maybe the Mount Kenya region, where we have the April and the December, November rains. The government has talked of fertilizer, but fertilizer is one factor of production, of bringing food on the table, making it cheaper, making the unga cheaper. Fertilizer alone cannot bring the cost of unga down. Have we seen other mechanisms? Have we seen more money being put into the agriculture? For example, just straight over a quarter of Kenya land is productive. The bigger percentage is arid and semi-arid. Have we seen the government putting more resources into increasing the productive area from the already productive in maybe 25% to increasing it maybe to 3/4? We should be seeing, unless I not be told of dams, because a dam will take more than 5 years or so to complete.
Kenyans they need mid-term solutions, not long-term. Cost of production, lowering the cost of fertilizer. That person in Mandera probably might not even understand.
That's what I'm saying. Before we are told of waiting for the dam, which will take 5 years, there are solutions which can take maybe a year,
yes,
or even 1 season. For example, most of the people are using very crude methods of producing these maize. Have we seen, it would maybe cost, we have 1,400 that they've once in the whole country. Have we seen maybe some of these people in the semi-arid areas, for us to increase the productive area, some of these areas, they have a problem of maybe getting a tractor. They're using the crude methods. Have we seen the government maybe giving in better ways of getting a tractor to plow the land for these people, so that the cost of production for food may be cheaper?
Let me ask you.
Yes.
My kinsman in Homa Bay County will not understand the issue of a tractor.
Yes.
They want to know the price of a kilo of sugar has been reduced.
Exactly.
Cost of fuel is not going to be somewhere close to 300. That's what they want to understand.
You
understand?
Yeah, but my issue is this.
Njoki talked of creativity. In terms of, imagine all of you are sitting in that committee advising the president. What would be done so that these Kenya Kwanza MPs, the next time they have their PG, they'll not talk about this. They'll talk about ground may change. At least Mwananchi is talking about something else. That's what I want to get from you. Probably before you respond, Njoki, let me get from Wakili.
Victor, it's simple.
Yeah.
I mean, running a country is not rocket science. It has been done. We have been here before, and we have seen what, for example, Kibaki did. He inherited an economy which was slightly badly off than what the president has inherited, or the Kenya Kwanza regime. So it takes somebody who understands what are the needy areas which needs to be addressed. For example, if you can be able to address, there was an issue of, we had the open tender system for purchasing of fuel. That was scrapped. We went for government to government with the promise that this is going to cure our problems, but it has made our problems even bigger. So if that issue can be relooked at, we do away with the government to government, or get a better deal government to government, because this is not working. Once that is sorted, then one of the key issues of the cost of production goes down. The other issue is the issue to deal with sugar. You're talking about case in Homa Bay, complaining that the cost of sugar is going up. It's everywhere in Kenya. We have not seen any clear plan which the Kenya Kwanza regime has towards alleviating or solving the issues of the sugar sector in Kenya. For example, Kenya has been going back on every promise under the COMESA regime, whereby we were supposed to have opened our markets to sugar, to move freely within the COMESA. Kenya has been giving promises every now and then. Up to now, we've never complied with that. So that tells you that we do have a problem around that. Solving the sugar problem, Zambia cannot be better placed to solve the sugar problem as opposed to us. So we are better placed. We have a lot of sugar factories in Kenya. Others are coming, private and government. The government are largely dead. If we can privatize them and have to pay farmers so that cane is available. Now, for example, Mumias is closed, but we have Mumia sugar being sold. Where is the Mumia sugar coming from? So that tells you there's somebody doing business. And this business is not to the advantage of Mwananchi, the local farmer, and it's not to the advantage of Kenyans. Because this person is bringing in sugar from wherever he's bringing and is charging Kenyans exorbitantly to make a kill. So if government can be able to look at some of these issues, then they will be tackling the key issues. There was the issue of the oil, the cooking oil issue, where we were told that the Kenya National Trading organization, some organization which was very quiet, apparently became came to the limelight. Where did that plan go? Because we were told that there was going to be oil on dispensers. You know, that could have sorted at least the issue. If we had very clear plans in terms of how we help Kenyans, and we see that they actually work, we could already have sorted the Kenyan issue. We do not actually need some very strange mechanisms. The issue is, what is the plan? That's what Kenyans are asking. We gave fertilizers to the farmers. Now they have harvested. You are telling them we cannot take the maize. I mean, what kind of joke is that? Why are you not putting money into the cereals board so that they can be able to take up this maize so that it becomes a strategic national reserve?
Yes.
So that we can be able to cure or have this issue. For example, if next year does not rain, we'll have the maize. Now, you again give farmers another cycle of fertilizer, and you still do not take their maize. They're going to take it. They cannot sell to Uganda. Uganda does not need maize. Tanzania the same. So we are stuck with issues whereby you have invested and you cannot be able to reap the benefit.
Before I come back to you, Njuki, you wanted to raise a concern.
Yeah. Thanks. And what I would like to say relates to the question that we are discussing, the issue of what kind of creativity can we then have. And just to acknowledge, again, I am a leader. So I know that leadership is not easy. Nevertheless, there are low-hanging fruits. Because like we're saying, there are certain infrastructural adjustments that may take a bit of time and they may need heavy investment. But there are certain low-hanging fruits, like we have said, you gave people fertilizer, isn't it? Now we have crops that are ready. But we also have several parts of Kenya where people are hungry. So all we need is good organization in terms of food distribution. So that then, and you see this as a low-hanging fruit helps in two ways. You're able to have a plan that buys these things from the farmers.
You're right.
So that then they are not stuck with crop that they have invested in and it's rotting and there's a lot of wastage, whereas we have other parts of the country where people are hungry. So that's a very low-hanging fruit. The government is aware of the areas where people are hungry. It's also aware of where there is heavy in terms of heavy harvest. So you collect from them, buy from them. That way, you have also empowered the farmer who has then produced that particular crop. There, on the other hand, you have also helped in terms of the poverty alleviation. The other thing is the question again of fuel. If they can be able to then subsidize the fuel, it means even that farmer, while we are waiting for the government to come and buy, you can also transport your things to the market. Right? You have also enabled the matatus to operate, so people are able to make an income and they are then able to go to the market and buy that food. These are very low-hanging fruit. There's also now the question of taxes. There is no urgent need to increase taxes, and quite a bit of it is disappearing in corruption. So there is no hurry to increase taxes, because the more we increase the taxes, we are then also making it difficult for businesses to operate, which effectively means some people are getting laid off.
Yes.
Again, creating a problem. The low-hanging fruit there, manage taxes in a manner that then enhances the ease of doing business. That also helps in terms of helping companies retain their staff and also be able to pay them. So if we can make those three immediate interventions that don't necessarily require huge infrastructural investments, these are low-hanging fruits that will give Wanjiku the urgent and immediate relief that Kenyans are seeking.
Okay, let me just make it simple. If I were a teacher, I would take you to a creative class, either drama or creative humanities, and then Mwathi, go to the mathematics class. You gave her 25% of the Kenya Kwanza administration. But what are the political ramifications? When you hear the Kenya Kwanza legislators calling on the president, you know what, Mr. President, the Mwananchi is now speaking. We are getting quite unpopular on the ground. We are the same people who campaigned for this administration. But hey, just a minute, listen to us. The voter is saying something. Look at the political side of it. What do you really think is now? They say that still waters run deep.
True.
Yes.
Actually, what the Mwananchi is saying, or what the registrars are saying is exactly the voice of Mwananchi down. Remember, these people are with the Mwananchi down. So when they come together and meet the president, they're actually sensing down there. So this kind of problem, which is down there, is now being given to the president and to his government. And they are saying there's something wrong somewhere. Something is not happening right. And true to it, I think, if you see the interventions that the government has taken, for example, what my brother has said about the government to government purchase of the fuel, the president even gave the figures. He even said the exchange rate, the dollar will come down. He even gave the expected, but instead of us getting that direction, it goes up. So that means whatever strategy, whatever plan that was there actually failed. What does that mean? That means there's something that did not go right, which went actually the opposite direction. So that means there should be an issue of re-strategizing, coming again to the drawing board, and see mechanisms which will give positive results.
What if the price doesn't change? They had a PG and says, you know what, fuel subsidy is not no.
I'm sure.
What would happen?
I'm sure the president listens. That's one thing I'm sure of. He's a president who listens. So even if it doesn't go the direction that the MPs were saying, because they were talking of, for example, subsidies. And for heaven's sake, we should not demonize subsidy completely. We should not say subsidizing some of the basic commodities completely wrong. It's a demon. Because, as I said, there should be short-term measures, mid-term and long-term, so that we get solution for Wajiko. Because that's all Wajiko needs. He needs food on the table and at affordable price. People want their cars moving, because today most of the people are leaving their cars at home and use other means. Others are coming together because of the cost of fuel. So instead you increase the tax on fuel, thinking that you'll collect more, but actually you collect less. Why? Because people cannot afford. People do not have money into their pockets. So if you want to tax more, then ensure that people have money in their pockets so that you can tax. But if you want to tax, but we don't have that money that you want to tax, then we will look for means of avoiding that.
Very good. Wakili Gesore.
Yeah, I would want to pick up from where he has left. You know, these are very critical issues, Victor, this morning we are discussing here. The cost of living is something which we need to sort like now. For example, the point he has finished on where he's saying that people will look for means. People are looking for means already. The first cost-saving measure people are putting in place, if you had, for example, a car for yourself, a car for your wife, and maybe another extra car lying there, you have to now start carpooling with your wife. You drop her at work and then you go. The errands you were able to do, like in a day, you would be able to go. Maybe, Victor, you have a problem, I come to your place here because you're my friend. I will not do that. I will give you a call. You know, the fuel I could have used it cannot be able to be quantified. So there is that aspect of if you overtax, people come up with mechanisms of also not evading, avoiding the tax. Because the tax avoidance is not a crime. Evasion is what is the problem. So if by this, the Treasury itself has, I think at some point, acknowledged that the money they were expecting to collect has come down by 1 billion shillings. And it's most probably going to go down further. So that means that thing is not working. You need to look for another mechanism where you can be able to actually ensure that people have money in their pockets fast, and then they can be able to deploy this money out for uses so that the government can be able to tax. So that is something. The other issue is we have seen a lot of companies laying off people. At this critical juncture, actually the statistics indicate, I think I saw it somewhere, that we are at the COVID level. The way people are...
I wanted to ask you that.
Yes.
Like you've gone back.
Yes, you've gone to the COVID era. Instead of
just
going forward, we are actually going
stabilize.
Back. Because the COVID era was understood, because factories were closed, people were at home, a lot of things were happening. What is exactly happening right now that even factories are laying off people? It's because of the overtaxation. So people were using the till, the M-Pesa tills have closed. They say they want cash or other means of payment. That means even Safaricom is going to report losses, and it's the largest company in the Eastern Central Africa. So you see, everybody is being affected. If we could be able to look at, we have something else which is also people do not know, Victor, is that the large manufacturers, the big companies, have since registered their businesses elsewhere, like in Dubai, like in the Mauritius, where by once you do business in Kenya, you cannot be entitled to be able, because we have some economic arrangements with these people, with these regions, whereby once a company is the company is no longer local, it's international.
Yes.
So they expatriate all their money there, and they are not entitled to pay some of the taxes which they are entitled to pay here. So that, of course, is a capital flight. Money leaves the country, goes elsewhere. That money goes to benefit people in Dubai instead of benefiting people locally. And that is one of the things which I think the government should be able to look into. Because once the large people, the large manufacturers, the industrialists have their money here, you can have a lot of money in circulation.
Okay.
Rather than them operating like foreign investors who need to be given some subsidies or given some incentives.
Let's take a break. When you come back, I still have the front page of the day, the Standard. It's almost the same thing. Gloomy state of the nation. The president is set to address the nation tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Gloomy state of the nation. Of course, it's more like what is the same thing that we're discussing here. So let's take a break. When you come back, we are going to take a look at what's on the front page of the Standard newspaper. And of course, Kabera Mwangaza impeachment hearing still continues this particular morning. We want to take a look at what really happened yesterday, but the big day is today. She's going to get her to know her fate. So let's just wait and see what will happen. Let's take a break. We'll be right back after this break.
Pindi tunapowasha vifaa vyetu, tunapata fursa ya kutangamana na wasikilizaji wetu.
Karibu sana thĩinĩ wa tabarĩra ya Rwiga.
Tunapeperusha utangazaji uliobobea katika habari,
nĩ ũndũ wa macio na mangĩ maingĩ,
burudani,
nĩ harĩa tũkoragwo tũkĩigua nyĩmbo mwaki nyĩmbo hot,
na hamasisho la kiroho. Usiachwe nyuma. Jiunge nasi kwa safari ya kufana katika 99.5 FM. Soro FM.
KBC Channel 1 magazine programs strive to disseminate news and information.
Welcome to Happening in the World of Entertainment
and achievements of individuals navigating through life.
Be part of the intelligent conversation. Papa KBC Channel 1.
Related to the interest of Kenyan public on various subjects of national importance.
Karibu tujifunze.
Keeping you up to date with the latest tech news,
challenges, and remarkable stories of individuals with disabilities.
And you have a say.
Our magazine programs empower communities with words for conversations and a common language to approach the world.
For your infotainment needs, we have a great range of programs.
You will never leave our bound down wayside. He will never leave I alone. You will never leave our bound down wayside. So if you should choose Jah, you're serving the Lord, your Creator. The sins of the Father are visited from all in a never-ending circle.
welcome back. If you're just joining us, you've not missed so much. But hey, it depends on which part of the country you're watching us from. All right, finally on the front page of the Standard, gloomy state of the nation as the president faces a nation drained by the high cost of living. In his second annual State of the Nation address tomorrow, Kenyans expect that even as he highlights achievements of his 14-month-old administration, he will list concrete steps to make their lives better. Of course, cost of living, a litre of petrol right now retails at 217.36 cents. In the country, the issue is cost of living, agriculture, justice, corporate health, and so much more. But that's more or less the same thing that we're talking about here, the cost of living. But cost of living is a small capsule that has everything in it. So when you talk of cost of living, it grows beyond the price of fertilizer, the price of unga. It's a broad-based kind of thing that we need to tackle. But then, what do we expect tomorrow as we come to this particular state of the nation? It's a gloomy state of the nation. Do you think so? What do you make of this headline, Njoki?
No, the fact is that Wanjiku knows the state of the nation, so that no amount of public statement will really cushion Wanjiku. And for now, as we have been able to see, I mean, each one of us has come here either driving or through any other means that people have taken. And we all know that the cost of living has indeed gone up. You know, poverty is a great dehumanizer. So even as a lawyer, when I talk about the rule of law, if people are hungry, the first thing they want is food on the table. So even as the government is addressing many issues and talking about, for instance, issues of the rule of law, the people will be saying, but we are hungry. We must put food on the table. We must enable people. And we were just discussing when we went on break, the fact that the cost of living has various implications, including social implications. Because the people who are losing jobs here, some of them are having to leave their families and going to look for work abroad. This therefore means that some children will grow up without their parents, some families will break up. So it has many implications. So even as the president is planning to address the country, what should be at the fore of his address, of his agenda, is to give members or the country the low-hanging interventions that are going to be made. Because unfortunately, if that does not happen, these issues of high cost of living is one of the greatest reasons why a government then becomes unpopular with its people. And that is why you find even the members of parliament causing that concern, because they are elected and they are very quickly becoming unpopular because they're being told you cannot then continue to support government, to support the executive, if the executive then looks detached from the needs of the people. So they are going to increasingly become unpopular unless low-hanging interventions are made.
Mwathi, do you think at some point things will change?
It depends with the government. If they are willing, the things can change. But actually what we expect tomorrow, the Kenya Kwanza government is so convincing. Just like they convinced Mwananchi during the voting time. They have continued to convince. It's a high time that they realize, number one, there's a problem. And the good thing that they can do to Wanjiku is one to accept, but not try to convince. You know, what I expect tomorrow, and I may not be very wrong, how I will hear them saying that they are employed 50,000 teachers, they have looked for jobs for people to go to other countries, this number of jobs, they have built this number of houses. All that will be packaged in a way that it will be very nice listening to from the TV. But the Mwananchi who is down there, this will not be very sweet information. It will not be, you will not be enjoying the talks. So what Mwananchi, I think, would really would at least comfort him a bit is, number one, accept that there is a problem. Even accept someone. It's not usually wrong to accept a mistake. Accept that we have tried this, but it has failed. But quickly, we are trying this other thing. That way, the manager will have at least some hope. But if we go the direction of the government, of trying to convince that the things are good, we are doing good, but with the mouth that you are saying you are doing good, but on the ground, the things are bad. Look at the issue of, that's what we were talking about, that's what my sisters, look at the issue of getting people and getting them jobs elsewhere, in another country. And when you talk of a big number, you think that's an achievement. To me, that's not an achievement. Why? These are people who have left colleges and universities, maybe they are in their 22, 24, 26, 28, around that age. You are taking that young fella to Korea or anywhere for another maybe 5 years. If you are 26, you will be 31 by the time you come. So the government has invested with this particular person. Taken to primary school, secondary school, university. This person should be productive here in Kenya and build Kenyan economy. Why don't we get that company which is looking for these people in Korea? Why don't you bring it here so that we absorb these people in our land and build our own economy? I'm not very sure whether there's any country that has grown. Though we are being told that those people who are outside the country are bringing more income, more than even the tourism and any other sector. Yeah. But look at this. These people are doing good, are producing in those other countries. They are not producing for Kenya. What they are getting is only the salary. And when you get the salary, remember the other things that you have done for that country. Good things that you have left in that country. Even you, Victor, whatever you are getting from this organization, the much that is being felt, most of the good that you are doing is left into the organization and in the country, and you go with just a bit of it. So these people will bring, you will get jobs for them outside. But the best thing would be these people who want our people there, let them bring these factories, these organizations here, and then we are not saying we can close so much, but that has not increased people going. People are going, and a wife is going, and husband is being raped. What social implication is that? Somebody is going at the prime age of her marrying. Instead of marrying at the 28, you marry at 35. You have messed with that person completely. So the other implications which you look at.
Joki just was just an example. It was just an example. Wakili, let's just have this finally, because I want us to talk about the issue of Kawira. It continues today at the Senate. Gloomy state of the nation, of which I want us to talk about later on, probably as we finalize. But on this full page, what do you think the president should do at this particular point today, if you were to make some changes on his desk today?
The changes I expect, I don't know. I don't know whether they are the same changes he should be looking at or are in his list. But first, I will want the president to make a very bold statement and say that we are reducing taxes. Yeah. That, for starters, that will be an immediate. It will have an immediate ripple effect. Because you reduce taxes, it means people are going to use these monies which they were paying to the state to invest more in employing more people. So you'll be able to get even more taxes through that. Once you do that, then you will have the aspect, the business environment also needs to be looked at. You should be able to address issues around registration of companies, compliance with the other mechanisms, so that we attract industries here, so that we don't send our people out. The way Mwadi has said that we lose more. Because essentially, Victor, you are staying in Nairobi. All your salary you get, 90% you spend it here in Nairobi. You don't send it to Omabe, maybe it's 10%. So when we take somebody out, it means we have also taken capital out, because this person is going to be a factor of production and will be beneficial to that country, not Kenya. So if we can have these industries where they're going to work out there, right here, it means we will have killed two birds with one stone. We'll have this person here, this person will be able to be productive here, and he will be able to improve the economy here. The other thing, what we need to do is maybe to attract expatriates who have technology which we don't have, so that it can be applied here, so that Kenya can be a center of manufacturing. So once we do that, we can be able to export more. We should be exporting products, not people. So that will really sort the situation which Kenya is in.
Yeah.
But to get there, we need to have the cost of production go down, like power. We need to have KPLC reduce the tokens and the cost of power. Once that goes down, then of course we bring in the issue of fuel. Of course, once those two things are sorted, then the cost of production will automatically come down.
All right.
And Kenya will be a good place to work and export more, get foreign exchange.
Thank you. Let's cross our borders and take a look at what's happening on the international front. Of course, we all know what is happening in the East right now. The issue here is Doctors Without Borders now employee killed in Gaza. Group says that there is nowhere safe. That is what's happening in Gaza. We all know what is happening in Gaza, between Gaza and Israel. An employee of medical charity Doctors Without Borders has been killed in Gaza along with several family members, the group said on Tuesday. That is what is happening, and the death toll continues to rise by each passing minute, and that is what is happening. Front page, that is front page of the France 24. On the front page of the BBC, this is the still pictures of the debris of houses and buildings being brought down by missiles. Israel says that its troops are in the heart of Gaza City. That is what we have. Israel says that its troops in the heart of Gaza City, and that is what is happening currently in Gaza. We see that a couple of Israel Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says that the troops are in the heart of Gaza City. The Gallant says that the Israel Defense Forces stormed, quote unquote, the city from the north and south in coordination with the land, air, and sea troops. This is not something that people are not amazed about. But Antonio Guterres yesterday said that there is now a humanitarian crisis in that country and something needs to be done. Very quickly, Joki, let me start with you. It happened yesterday until around midnight. The impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza still taking place today. She's going to know her fate. What did you take out of that procedure, that process that took place in the Senate yesterday?
Well, before I even get to that, I'd like to refer to what you've just spoken about in Gaza.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I hope that if we have that the government has taken deliberate steps to check or confirm if we have Kenyans there, and that necessary measures have been undertaken to make sure that any Kenyans who could have perhaps gone there to do work or such other things have then been safely brought back home.
Yeah.
We've just spoken about the issues of the fact that the cost of living has gone so high, so some of our people are having to go away. So if we have some of our brothers and sisters there, it is important that then arrangements are made to bring them back home or to at least keep them safe when they're there. That's one of the issues that is usually often ignored, even as we're talking about war in other jurisdictions, that we often forget that we have our Kenyans in those other places. Now we can, switch gears and talk about the impeachment process. You know, for a long time, since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, we have found that the issue of impeachment is one of those ones that are then being used quite a couple of times to deal with disagreements between the county, the governor, and the MCAs. And I think it's just one of those questions, again, that we come back to and tell ourselves, the governor is elected. And then we have MCAs also who have been elected, which is the same problem that you are highlighting, to the fact that we have the President of the Republic and then we have MPs who are telling him, we need to show our people that we are doing something. And it's really the same thing that's happening in many counties, where the MCAs will say, we need to show our members that we are doing certain things. And then you have the governor who's saying, yes, we need to do that, and this is the direction we need to take. So quite often in the country where there has been a disconnect, we've found people taking the impeachment route. Is it effective? We have seen that there are various grounds for impeachment.
Yes.
So it's a question of sometimes, is it really genuine reasons that are calling for the impeachment, or are there other stories behind the scene? So that in the grand scheme of things, if you were to apply the proper constitutional test for the grounds for impeachment, has it been met? Or are there other, political reasons why someone is being impeached? I mean, we need to appreciate that, and here I'm not holding brief for anybody. I think one of the reasons why we are discussing this is to ask ourselves, how do we enhance good governance in Kenya at the county level? So in order to do that, then we must ask ourselves genuinely. Number one, it is possible that, remember, Kawira Mwangaza is elected as an independent candidate, was elected as an independent candidate. So then she doesn't have the benefit of being cushioned by MCAs from her political party. Because see, most of the times when you have members, a governor then who is from a political party, some of the MCAs, either in the majority or in the minority, then will support.
So basically she's on her own.
She's on her own.
Yeah.
You see? So, and so that doesn't necessarily mean that she is wrong or right. It's a question of, if then there's a disconnect, how can that disconnect be resolved? For the longest time, because of the issue of impeachment being used and used consistently, we forget that also if MCAs are the ones who are, who are then not doing what they're supposed to do, there is Article 192 of the Constitution where the entire county government can actually go home. All of them can go home, and
someone raised that concern that if now it's becoming ungovernable in that county, then why don't you go home and seek a new mandate?
Yes, because you see, it is getting to a point where then it is affecting service delivery.
Right.
The MCAs need to know that they are elected to serve the people. Equally, the governor needs to know that she's elected to serve the people. So that if there's an impasse, can it be resolved in a manner that will not cripple the functions of the county government? Right? So it shouldn't be that every time there's, and you know, especially the first time after the Constitution, one of the creative ways that then was applied, because the MCAs were saying we need to deliver things on the ground, very creative counties said, let's have a ward development fund. Right? And this then enables the MCAs to do certain things on the ground without necessarily requiring the governor to intervene. So I think it's about time that we need to ask ourselves, what again, and I go back to the solution, what other creative ways can we employ so that we are not crippling operations? Because if operations are crippled, then the people of Meru, because no one is calling them to ask them, is the governor really delivering or not? You will remember the same thing happened to Governor Kivuta Kibwana.
Yes.
And there were equal threats of impeaching him. And then that route of dissolving the entire county government was actually undertaken, but of course it didn't fall through, and the withdrawal and the impeachment motion was withdrawn. But do you know what happened? When then subsequently people went back to election, the governor came back. Only one MCA came back of all those ones who had wanted to impeach him.
Yes.
So it is possible also that the governor may not necessarily be wrong. It is possible that it is the MCAs, or it is also possible that it is the governor. So the thing is, we must ask ourselves, we need to serve Wanjiku. Can we look for a productive way as opposed to looking for who is going to send who home? But where they are unable to do that, also let governors not be threatened with impeachment.
That comes back to my next question, but I'll come back to that. But one thing, what do you really think is happening in Meru County? Because this is a second impeachment motion in a span of 10 months, under 1 year. Let's just put it, Kawira Mwangaza has not seen light, quote unquote. In her first year, 1 year in office, she's not really enjoyed working for the people of Meru. What is happening?
True, and actually the person who is suffering is the voter or the mwananchi of Meru County. In the middle of this pull and push, the person who is not getting the services is actually the Mwananchi. That is why this issue should be behind the back of the people. And to me, there is just as we all know, it's true, Kawera came into power as an independent candidate. Having done things that we would call unimaginable, because remember, this is the governor who broke the sequence. Who broke the sequence of the UDA sweeping all the gubernatorial seats from Nakuru all the way to Ntonyiri, the area commonly known as the Mount Kenya stronghold. She's the only governor who did not come through UDA. That you cannot take that lightly. So you should take her as somebody who is. Remember, she's the same governor who ensured or who made the long time Kenyan politician and the person who had not known losing election, one Kericho County, to lose for the first time since 1992. So when you look at her, you look at a person who is peculiarly unique in her own ways. Remember, this is somebody who has almost a third of the Meru voters with her. So to me, and these are my views, I would see Kawera being very strong with the people on the ground, the Wajikos we are talking of, but being very unpopular with the leaders, with the business community of Meru.
Okay.
So,
who matters here? Who matters here? We all know who has the power.
So, these things, so whatever the Senate will decide, will have a very big impact in Meru.
Okay.
Simply because when you ask who matters, you know that Mwananchi in a shamba, in a small shop, in Ngopo, in Meru, in Maua, we may not be able to hear his voice here. But the MCS, we are hearing their voices in a big way.
Allow me to interrogate this, Mwathi. When you talk about, you've talked about two different people here. The common Mwananchi, she's very popular.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
But then now, on the other side, she's not. So, who is calling the shots here? The elite? Who has the power?
As far as the situation is on the table today, the elite, we can be able to hear their voice. Because they are able to speak in their rallies.
Okay.
The MCAs who belong there, who belong to the elite, we are seeing them beaching the Kawera. But do you think you will be able to hear the voice of the person who is growing his mera in the village?
We all know that they have a platform too.
They have a platform, but rarely do we.
Okay.
The person with a small shop, retail shop in one of the markets, we will be able to hear that. But what we should know is that everybody has one vote when it comes to the ballot, and that is why Kawera emerged the winner. That being the case, whatever happens up here, we would, if at all we decide, or the Senate decides that Kawera goes home, this is the Mwananchi down will be a sad person. We will not be happy. The group that is with Kawera, but the elite will celebrate. And Kawera being who she is, she will not go and keep quiet.
Okay.
She will not go the Waitito style. Who went on his business. Kawera will go to her Bilateral FM for the next 3 years. Also remember, this one has also some implication on the Mount Kenya politics.
Let's hold there. Let's hold there. Let's take a break. When you come back, we're still going to talk about that. She had 7 charges against her, and we'll be taking a look at them. And whether some of these charges are impeachable. Do they stand? And then I will ask you questions individually. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Celebrating the fact that Danielle and Carolina are now husband and wife legally. They just got married.
It was a mistake to fall in love with him. I was his brother's wife.
I know, my friend, but please stop torturing yourself with this.
I knew it! I had a feeling you were going to tell me something like this. How could you?
You're going to keep your mouth shut, Carolina. There is no way that I will let you talk. I swear that if you say one word, I will...
In a world filled with uncertainty, there is one thing we can always count on: the power of compassion and generosity. Every day, families in Kenya face unimaginable challenges and hardships. They struggle to put food on the table, provide shelter for their loved ones, and access basic health care. But today, you have the power to make a difference. By just contributing 1 shilling and 50 cents from your airtime, your generosity can provide access to sanitary pads, nutritious food, clean water, education, and life-saving medical care to those who need it most. To support this cause, please tune in to your favorite radio station under the KBC umbrella for step-by-step instructions on how to subscribe. KBC Helping Hands. Together, we can make a difference and bring hope to those in need.
So we are just having tete-a-tete here. Let me ask you, Gibson. So what really happened? There are two scenarios. The first impeachment process or motion was taken before the Select Committee of the Senate, but right now it's now the entire committee of the whole House. So what brings the difference?
The difference is that once you are subjected to the whole House, you answer to the whole House, as opposed to the last number of 11 members, which is a select committee, which, I mean, it's kind of a moderated process where you can be able to make your case. But when you're talking to the entire House, you have to convince each of these members and then be able to, you know, now it's becoming a very, very confusing situation because you realize that each of these members have their own persuasions, they have their own understandings, and then they have their own principles. So you have to find a way of navigating of all of these issues, and then be able to come up with a very convincing story, which is going to carry the day. If not, then unfortunately, whether you are not guilty or you feel that you did what was needed.
Yes, Wakili, I'm told that we need to take that live link. We need to cross over to the Senate and pick that link as early as now. Apology for that. Of course, we've been talking to Joaquin Boshe, who is an advocate of the High Court. I have something about you. We'll talk about it later on. Mwakithi Ireri, thank you so much for joining us, and Wakili Gibson Gesore. Asante sana. We are crossing over to the Senate and take a listen to what is happening. Later on in the evening, they'll take a vote on whether she'll go home or she'll survive the onslaught. My name is Victor. Have a good morning.
I will claim my minute.
This is the first time it's happening in Africa. That's where we can measure up where we really are.
أكبر فريق في الكرة التونسية.
Enyimba is Nigeria.
I want Mamelodi Sundowns to conquer Africa.
Angola's style is fighting and very fast players.
Tepe Mazembe ni ekipi isa kufanya histoire monde mzima.
عندنا طاقات كبيرة، عندنا طاقات لعابة كبار.
سيمباز تنزانيا.
أي بطولة هي بالنسبة لنا بتبقى أهم بطولة.
Childhood mortality, or in simple terms, childhood deaths, is an indicator of a society's or a nation's well-being and socio-economic status.
From this report again, we see that there is high male-female mortality compared to female. Under 5 mortality is at par in both rural and urban. It's at 41 deaths per 1,000 live births.
But what are some of the interventions that are being put, and what would you advise?
Delivery at a health facility will improve the chances of the mother and the child surviving.
And consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen.